My name is Dr. Tim Webster. I lead the Applied Geomatics Research Group here at the Nova Scotia Community College. We've really focused, I would say, on three-dimensional mapping and further refined our work to looking at the coastal zone. So probably our biggest claim to fame is we own and operate a topobathymetric LiDAR sensor, so we can map seamlessly from the land into the seafloor. And we've been doing work from ecological mapping to hydrodynamic modeling, looking at the fate of pollutants or things like storm surges and vulnerability to climate change and so forth. We've also done work in rivers, looking at fish habitat, fish passage, and then a wide breadth of other applications. I think some of the work we do is important, looking at both the short-term and the long-term vulnerability to climate change effects. And where we've really focused our research is, first off, along the coast, looking at both the impacts of storms and storm surges, what that does with regards to coastal flooding, erosion, loss of infrastructure, and so forth. With climate change, we know sea level is rising, so we can also look at long-term planning of where a given storm today, how it would behave in the future. I don't think there's any way we're going to stop Mother Nature, but maybe if we could slow her down in places or build where we're not fighting against her, is a smart thing to do. But people can't do that if they don't have the information. I would get phone calls from different groups, whether it was emergency management officials or others, and basically ask me, say, Environment Canada is predicting a 1 meter storm surge next week. Which of your flood layers should I get? Should I select? And I would explain to them they would have to look at what the predicted tide was. If the surge was going to occur at high tide, you'd have to add that together. And by the way, if it's based on a tide table, that's a different vertical reference system. So quite a complicated story to try to tell somebody who's not technical in that area. That was really the motivation for us to build a online automatic web mapping system to look at storm surges and sea level rise. We've linked the flood layer mapping with the predictions we get from Environment Canada for 10 days out. We know what the predicted storm surge would be around the province. So what that allows somebody to do without any technical knowledge is click on the graph to see 3 days out what the water level will be, and the map automatically updates itself. And what you're seeing is dynamically what's going to get flooded and how deep the flood may be. So that development of a website was really out of the need to allow people to make use of the data we produced. This coastal flood prediction system, this web map that we have, because of that system and our work with Environment Canada and the early warning folks at the Canadian Hurricane Center, we knew there was a big system coming. And then as we looked at our website, we could see what the predicted surge was, and it was going to be higher than anything we had ever seen. What we had predicted would happen based on some flood maps ahead of time were very close to what actually did happen. That was useful to give people a little bit of warning a day or two ahead, and then secondly, that the system actually predicted that water level fairly close to where it ended up. There's an awful lot of people doing an awful lot of good work that impact the public or have an influence. I know as a scientist, it was very rewarding to be recognized for all that work. I would encourage people to give some thought as to who's doing things out there that you think have an impact on Nova Scotia in general, and put in the work that it takes to nominate them.